from the Ticats Audio Network, this is Morreale and Hitch.
Okay, first of all, my apologies to all of our fans, all 7 of them. I think we lost 4, Rob.
Yeah.
And we're going to lose another friend very quickly. His name's David Butko.
Yeah.
First of all, we have you and myself, hierarchy enough. And then we bring on our special guest who, up until about a minute ago, didn't even get a link to the program. Either did we. David's been sleeping. He's wearing the same shirt as the last show, which tells me that he rarely gets out of bed. Very frustrating. If this show sucks, I blame it entirely on our executive producer with the man bun.
What do you mean if this show sucks?
Exactly.
It won't suck.
Okay. We got chirping from the cheap seats. So without further ado, we're going to have to introduce this gentleman. He has been a head coach in the CFL, an offensive coordinator in the CFL, a receivers coach in the CFL, a broadcaster. Apparently, he's a YouTuber now. He's a very famous YouTuber. We'll get into that a little bit later. But without further ado, I'd love to, Rob, on behalf of Rob and myself, welcome to the Morreale and Hitch podcast, Mr. Paul LaPolice. Lapo, how you doing, bud?
Hey, great to be here. Awesome. Some of my favorites, all-time favorites, you two guys.
So let's start there. This show is about nothing. Like it is whatever we come up with in the moment in time. Yeah. Kind of like some play calling I've had over the years. But this is, we first met, Rob and I would have been, what, Rob? We would have been in our
fifth year, 2000.
Year-ish.
Lapo came in with Toronto in 2000, I think, right?
Yeah, I came in the league in 2000.
Yeah, so it was just after we won the cup, Mike.
That's right. I should know this because Lapo was my coach.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time together. I don't remember the years, but I do remember Lapo coming in
04.
In 04, that was right. The year that Bob Young took over. There was new ownership. Lapo came in. There was a changing of the guard. At that point, Jamie Barisi was the offensive coordinator. But Lapo had come over as a previous OC. So how did that fit in? How did you adjust to that going, I'm not going to say taking a step down, but, you went from play calling to being the receiver coach and another rookie kind of OC getting that job. What was that dynamic like?
You know what, looking back on it, it was awesome because Jamie was such a good guy. But as a young kid, I was at times I was a jerk. I'd be frustrated, right? But Jamie was awesome. I was the offense coordinator at Winnipeg at 02 and 03. And, Milt Siegel, Kahari 46 touchdowns, Milt's player of the year, 23. We broke a bunch of records. Then Lyle Bauer blows up that organization, kicks me out. And I leave there, and then R.D. Lancaster, who was your OC for the worst offense in the league, and 1-17, goes to Winnipeg. It's just why are you doing? And I was interviewing for the coordinator job, but I think Greg knew Jamie, and Jamie hadn't coached in the CFL, so he hired Jamie and then offered me the coordinator job. And, it was a good experience, because of this. Jamie had no ego, and he's loved football. So he was, basically it was like co-coordinators. He allowed me, I shouldn't say that. He was the coordinator, but he gave me enough to, half the time run the meetings, talk about how we did stuff. We installed our entire system from Winnipeg pretty much, and Jamie had a couple of his things. But, so it was an adjustment as a young guy going, well, he doesn't have a lot of experience in this, but he was awesome, when you look back on it. Because he allowed us to go, hey, I'm new to this stuff. You roll with a lot of it. And good Lord, I was just kind of Googling some stuff. And a YouTube game came up after 2 weeks of the season. Danny Mac threw for 1,000 yards in 3 games, the first 3 games. After 2 games, we're averaging 500 yards per game, 32 points. After you're averaging 14 points the year before. So, Jamie did a lot of good things, but a lot of it was giving freedom to Danny Mac, giving freedom to me. So he should be commended for it.
Staying on the coaching aspect, Lapo. Like when we came in the league in '95, like it seemed like the turnover of coaches, like you said, RD going 1-17 and then going out to a team that just got blown up. Like, do you find nowadays, and I think it's different, where it's just the guys that we played with that are coaching that have been in there such a long time. So the question is I always found that if a guy didn't do well somewhere, someone else would just pick him up, and he'd go to 5 or 6 different teams. Like, is that still, coaches still do that? Like, is they just need a fresh look somewhere else, and is that's probably the mentality of it? Because, like, I don't know.
I think what happens is, whether it be the NFL, whether it be college, the CFL, is, I hate when people say the term recycling, like, because you're like, oh, get the next guy, this or that. Like, when you're going for open heart surgery, you don't go, well, let me get this guy who's never done anything before, right? Exactly. Experience matters in some ways. So I do think, years ago when I first came into the league, and you guys would have been around that time, it would have been the D coordinator and one guy.
Yeah.
Like it was Sudsy and Deke, and that's it. They might have had somebody helped out, but he got paid $10,000, and he was, there were 2 coaches. Like when I came into the league, when I was a coordinator in Winnipeg, it was myself, an offensive line coach, and Daryl Sampson was my special running back coach, but he knew nothing about offense. He was a special teams guy. So like I coached the whole offense by myself. So I think back in those days, there had to be recycling because the clubs didn't have enough younger people to be like, oh, who's the next coordinator? So you would see like Rich Stubler used to work and the budgets were so bad. Stubler took the whole budget and hired a young guy to help out, and Stubler coached everybody. Stubler was a great coach, but that does not help you when Stubler leaves or when somebody leaves for some organization. So I think it has gotten better. I think the salary cap has hurt that a little bit, of allowing to have, all right, I've got a running backs coach in 2 years, he's my coordinator. Or, like I was fortunate in Winnipeg to have Buck Pierce with me. Kevin Burgoyne was a coordinator at University of Maine. So there are 2 guys who could have just bumped up after the fact. And I think back in those days when you guys were playing, they just didn't. There wasn't a staff of 9, 10 guys. Yeah. It was just 1 or 2, right? I don't know who you had. You had RD and Merman, right? Is that who you had, Mike?
Well,
Mark Murray and RD.
Electric Joe and Side Door Gary.
Phil Russ the plumber.
And Mike the telephone guy. So I mean, we get
that. Who is the little Irish guy? Who is the little who walked around with those guys? He loved my wife.
We had so many guys, Lapo. You know what that was like. It was just a sideshow.
Dennis Bobolo.
Oh, Denny Bobs. Vinny would sew your arm shut, sleeve shut of your jersey.
Electric Joe, for the people who don't know, was like, there are all these guys who kind of knew Mike McCarthy, and they would kind of help out, and they were just huge fans. But if we needed some Electric Joe came over, and he did it. So it's my first day at the Ticats. I swear to God, the first day. And we're in a huge staff meeting. Everybody in the coaching staff and DV Sport, Exos is giving us a presentation, and this is the company we're going to go to. And he's pitching us like, this is what the software can do for you and everything. So it's the whole coaching staff, maybe the GM, Greg, and this guy I don't know, Electric Joe. So he's in there listening to him talk about video editing systems, and he just flat out falls asleep right in the meeting, snoring, everything. And the guy's like, what do I do here? Oh my God.
Part is, he wasn't even part of the staff. He just there.
He just hung out. Oh. But he ran all the Cat 5, like all the Cat 5 cables for our video. And I remember he's like, I'm doing the Cat 5. I come in from practice. There's dust and crap all over my desk and everything. I'm like, Joe, you might want to clean that up. Oh, yeah, sorry, Lapo, I forgot. And,
bring the leaf blower in. Bring the leaf blower in.
Oh, yeah. That was just
Trevor. Trevor was the little guy's name.
That was just
little Trevor.
That was his bestest.
How about the security we had with Side Door Gary? Whoever wanted to come in the room after the game, they would knock on the door, and be so I'm with Hitch. Oh yeah, go right in. Didn't even know me. Right into the room.
If you had a girl, side door Gary, let him right in. Right? Oh, yeah, come on,
in,
go
bro,
ahead in.
go.
And speaking of security, one day Jamie and I came off Balsam, like we came in after practice, and I sit at my desk, and Jamie's sitting at his desk. I'm like, man, something looks weird here. Something's different. Like, oh, my laptop's gone. I'm like, oh, and then Jamie's laptop's gone too. Somebody came in when we were on the practice field, walked out with both our laptops.
But
good day.
This was what we lived through. This is what hell, you maybe get your car ripped off one day, or maybe something else is missing, or people just shoot in your locker room. But you talked about
those guys were character guys because, like when I moved, I had a house in Ancaster up by Ancaster High School, and like Electric Joe got Russ the plumber to do all the plumbing for me for our downstairs basement stuff, and it was awesome. And like I remember. The guy charged me like $50 to set up, move the lines and everything. It was nothing. I gave him money. Joe comes up to me and goes, Paul, I have to ask you a question. Did Russ charge you? I'm like, yeah, he did. Yeah, like, well, of course, it was nothing. It would have cost me $400 to get somebody. And he's like, that's disheartening. He shouldn't have charged you anything. I'm like, yes, he should have. Are you kidding me, Joe? No. I mean, there's a lot of people there, that there's a good crew from Deke on, right? That whole crew of people and down, going down to the Hess Village. And no, those were 2 great years, right? I enjoyed those 2 years.
Electric Joe asked you that because he probably took $25 off of him.
Listen, those guys worked beer and road trips. They were sitting with Sudsy on our road trips to Montreal, Ottawa, on the train the whole time. It was just, but Lapo, you talked about being young. At that point, Rob and I were like 35, 33, 34. You had to be the same age. Like what?
Yeah, I was. I would have been. I turned 30 in training camp when I started with the Argos. So, funny thing, when I got hired, there was this big deal when I went to the Grey Cup. There was all this stuff, and people said your Wikipedia page. It was in like the national news, like says you're whatever. I forget what age I was when I was in the Grey Cup, and I'm like, well, the Wikipedia is wrong because they're going off the Argos media guide years ago because J.I. Albrecht, when he took over the Argos, and I worked with John Heward, I was 29 when I got hired, and he didn't want a 29-year-old on the staff, so he changed my age to 30 to make it sound better. So I turned 30 in training camp, and when I went to Winnipeg as the coordinator, I was 30. Kahari and Milt were older than me, and we would have been so I would have been 33, 34 at the same time. We would have been the same age. Yeah. So
it was. I really enjoyed our relationship because I felt like we were like able to share stuff, and I felt like you relied on our experience to be able to kind of work on things together. I love the relationship. I mean, we had a great room of guys. We had some characters. We had Craig East, so he was enough to drive you crazy. But Craig could play, man. When Craig wanted to play, and he was going downfield, he was tough to corral. That's for sure.
You know what? I enjoyed. I enjoy smart football players. I enjoy teaching, and what was kind of cool that year is we came in, and I was telling Milt this a couple of weeks because Milt says, "You remember like every play that happens?" I'm like, the difference is, Milt, is you see it once, and then you in the film review where I build cut-ups like. If when I taught stuff in Ottawa, we were watching film from 2016 to 19 of Winnipeg. And then same thing when we went to Hamilton, I was like, all right, here's our shallow play. Here's the adjustments. Because part of my job is to sell the system's awesome. Right. So you show all the great clips. And I remember Archie going, oh, man, this is going to be awesome, running all this stuff that, Milt was killing and everything. So, you try to put that stuff in and then it's like, okay, how does Danny Max go to this? How do we adjust to Danny Max? How do we adjust to Mike and what he does well? And then just kind of figure it out from there. Because I think that year we started, DJ Flick was our starting Z.
Yep.
I forget who field 2 was. I know our receiver were Demetrius Breedlove, DJ Flick, you, Yeast, and Archie. That was our 5.
Yeah.
And Archie played field 2. Yeast was field 3. And you and Yeast we used to rotate in and out. DJ was our started out as Z, then went to the boundary. But like you knew people's strength. If I wanted Craig to run a diagonal across the field in man coverage or a corner, I'd put him in. If I wanted somebody to do a pattern read and recognize coverage, I'd put Mike in, right? And utilize his strengths. So no, that was a crazy crew, those guys. Craig East, Archie was a great player.
Yeah.
Very underrated player, man.
Great.
He could do some things that wasn't the fastest. He was just a great football player,
And
competitive.
He was tough.
Yeah, he was high maintenance, so he would be I used to call those guys hyenas, just every day. At our meetings, Archie comes to me one day and he's like, "Lapo, I'm kind of upset." I'm like, "Okay, well let's hear it." He's like, Craig has a play. We run Oakland to Craig, and Morreale has shallow or this or that, and and he's like, "Everybody, DJ's got this. I don't have a play. I don't have a play for me. What's my play?" And I'm like. I grabbed the stats. I'm like, "Archie, you're leading our team in receptions. So there must be some play for you. What are we talking about here?"
Arch was, in my opinion, he's the next man up on the wall of honor in Hamilton. I mean,
great player.
He deserves to be there, from a running back to a slot. Because you got to remember, at that point, that was taking him out of his comfort zone, right? You were doing things with him that maybe Pinball was doing. Or players that are built different, like Milt Stegall. But Archie came in, he was he had all the tools, man.
Shifty.
He had all the tools.
One of the best plays I've ever seen a guy do was him, and I still remember it. He would somebody was going to hit him in open field. He started to stiff arm the guy. He started to pull back to get him off balance, and then he stiffed arm again, and the guy fell right down. I was like, "Oh my God, how did he learn to do that, or what happened?" That was crazy.
I remember a play in the 98 Grey Cup. Remember that, Mike?
Awesome.
He caught that one across the middle, and I think the two guys, Calgary guys, actually hit each other, and he slipped between both of them. I don't know how the hell he did it.
The same thing. He stuck a foot forward.
Yeah.
The guys to hit him, then he just peeled back, and they both ran into each other.
And then he took it upfield. Oh yeah, he was good. But I heard he's about 280 now.
Boy, big boy. Yeah, poor guy.
Sure.
We got to get him up here. We got to get him up here somehow. So what got you, speaking of getting up here, what got you to the CFL? Because you're some young out in, in the East area, right, of the U.S., and what did you know about how you get here?
I didn't. So I was coaching for so the first job I ever coached out of college, I wanted to be a football coach, and I got a job at Maine Maritime Academy, which is a Division III school. I played Division III football, and it was in the New England Football Conference. I played at Plymouth State. Maine Maritime was in that conference. The head coach of that team was a guy named John Heward. So I worked for him. And at the end, we go 9-0, have an undefeated season, great year. And I remember in our playoff game, we played just a one-game playoff, and we won that game. There was this old guy at the game, and they were celebrating with us and everything, and his name was J.I. Albert. So after that season, John Heward goes to Shreveport Pirates as the head coach. So weird, I'm 23 or whatever. I'm supposed to go be a quality control for the Shreveport Pirates. And my buddy calls me and he's like, "You haven't left yet, thank God. I think coach just got fired." He got fired in training camp. Yeah, so what happened is the organization was run terrible. Coach Heward's not going to take – Coach Heward will protect his players, and they didn't have trainers, and he was ripping them. I can't have my players on the field without training staff, this or that. And so he gets fired. So I just start coaching. I coach at Maine Maritime, Western Connecticut, 2 years at University of New Hampshire. With Chip Kelly, right? And we'll talk about Chip coming up. Because last week, Doug Flutie said he was everyone's saying, "Oh, he was at the Argos in '97." I'm like, no, he wasn't. The first time he came was with us in Hamilton. But he said, so I did 2 years in New Hampshire. Then I went to RPI, which is Joey Juneau, Adam Oates, a big hockey school. Both went there. I coached there for 3 years as the OC. And then out of the blue, John Heward gets the head job of the Argos. And he calls me and says, "Hey, I want you to come coach quarterbacks and running backs, I think." And I was like, "Coach, I don't know anything about CFL." He goes, "You're a good football coach. You'll figure it out." So I took the job, and, Jeff Fairholm was the receiver coach. Ray Zaremba was the O-line coach, myself. And it became very apparent that I was going to call the game. I was like, whoa. And we had nobody who knew CFL really well. And, it was kind of it was a shit show. And then he gets fired after the season. We go 1-8-1. He gets fired. Pinball takes over. Then we signed Kerwin. And again, I think one of my strengths always was Kerwin came in, pinball's like, just get with Kerwin, put some offense in. And I was like, Kerwin, what are we running? And my strength is like, I know what I want to do, but I also can adjust. So letting the players know, like, all right, what do you like? What don't you like? And I think the players respected that. And then when Kerwin came in, we started building it together. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the year, pinball, everybody in football ops was fired except for me. So pinball retained me. John Jenkins came in, so I had a year with Jenks. And then I went to Winnipeg, was able to kind of do my own thing, right? And I didn't even know Winnipeg. Like, I was kind of ignorant of the fact that how good Winnipeg was. And you go there, like, you really don't want to take a job where teams are really kicking, doing so good. But like, once I got around Milt and Kahari, I was like, whoa. Like, I had certain ways we do blitz and handle blitz and stuff. And then Milt, the first game, just, all right, I'm gonna change it and do it this way. I'm like, all right, that's in from now on. Like, let's just make sure we're all on the same page. And yeah, so that's how I got up here.
It's amazing that like everybody takes these different paths, and the fact that you were tied to John Heward, then John Heward came here, didn't do well, but you still had that opportunity to stick around and forge. I think most people know you met your wife here, you live here now. Like you're a bona fide Canadian, right? You're all in, and
I'm a permanent resident.
And so, but I got to put you on the spot, and obviously Milt had to be one of the best football players, let alone athletes, let alone receivers you ever played with. Who's kind of tough question. I don't want you to have to pick, but in terms of quarterbacks, who are the ones that got your system quickly and really excelled in it? Who are the receivers that got your system quickly and excelled in it? Some are pretty easy, like a Milt, but Kahari versus Danny, are they similar? Are they different? Where's it? How does that all work?
Okay, that's cool. Those are cool questions. All right, so Kahari, like I just thought like when I got with Kahari and Milt, I just could see how well they were. And like I said, like what you and I would have called shallow Mike, which was a dig into the boundary. And Milt saw a press man in a game. He knew there was nobody over his head. What I mean by that, another route over the top of him. So he said digs are tough versus press man. I just took it, and I knew Kahari would know. And Kahari recognized it and threw a touchdown. And I was like, what are you guys doing? And then, like, once I heard the rationalization, I'm like, that's in from now on. So, I think if you have smart guys and you can build stuff around that, then you can allow them to excel. Milt wasn't the best athlete, but he was probably the smartest player I've ever coached. Like, he could motion into the boundary and run a corner route into the boundary and then recognize it's zero. And as he's motioning, take the middle of the field and throw a touchdown. Kahari did that in a game. You don't see that anymore. So I think that's the first. You got to make sure you do that well. And Milt was excellent at that. That opened my eyes on doing different things. What was Kahari good at? Kahari just stand in the pocket and throw. Like, he would deliver. And like back in those days, they didn't mind quarterbacks taking a hit because everyone says, why don't you take the middle anymore and cover zero? Well, because the quarterback holds the ball and he's going to get hit. But Kahari would throw a touchdown and get right back up and go. He was a tough football player. And I think Kahari, everybody had confidence he'd bring him back. Mm-hmm. Right? I thought that. So then if you go to Hamilton, Danny Mac's thing was he was amazingly accurate. I just can't. The ball came out like him and Kevin Glenn are the two in my 25 years where the release is fast. Yeah. Now Danny Mac's going to throw it. His biggest line always was he would hit a guy in the head in the helmet with the football, and the guy would turn around and start palms upping him, and like Danny would palms up him back and go, look, there's a guy who just came free right here. I have to get the ball out of my hand. So he threw the ball faster, but I just recall that I never saw that guy in practice miss a ball by 20 yards. Like, he never had he had misses, but he never had big misses. So like, he was a very accurate, he made decisions quickly, could recognize things. And I thought, like, when I heard you and him talking about simple, I don't want to get too technical, go and in. You're the inside slot running a go, somebody's got an in, that you guys would recognize when it was the middle of the field was open And the will expanded that even though, like that he would throw you the ball early and recognize that. Just the intelligence that you had to do those things, really, I remember being there impressing me. I'm like, because everyone's like, oh, when I got there, everyone was probably like, Morreale, he's part of the old crew. He's not, like just put him out at Z or whatever and don't. And I was like, no, he's got to be our boundary two. He's smart. Like our boundary two's got to have intelligence and good stuff. So like I appreciated that.
Yeah. Along those lines, so now you've got your own YouTube channel, right? You're
along those lines. That's not along those lines.
I want to bring it up, but in terms of the coaching and the receiver position, the skill position, all the stuff that you're doing with your channel, what made you do it? Tell everybody what it's about and what you're trying to do.
So last year I did a little bit of it, because what happened is I think when Zach Collaros got hit, Pete Roberson headbutted him last year, if you remember.
Yeah.
It was a big upper in the league. And a lot of people in the league said some stuff I totally disagreed with. Like everyone's like, we got to protect the quarterbacks. And then somebody else, we got to protect the stars of the league. And then some people say, oh, that's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. You guys make it a big deal. And like, I remember just going on Twitter and doing a video and just saying like, one, as you two as former players, you're absolutely wrong when you say we have to protect the stars of the league. We have to protect every player in the league. So, quarterbacks get extra protection during a play, but after the football play, every player on that field gets absolute protection. Mm-hmm. So I don't care if you're a backup or anything, you cannot hit a person like that.
Yeah.
And then we wear all these guardian caps now in practice because you don't want blows to the head. Now it's a blow. So I kind of went on a little thing and like, I have a bunch of followers. I have 18,000 followers on Twitter, but like that thing blew up. And I was like, you know what? We just don't have the time for coaches' playbooks anymore that I used to do when I was sponsored by GMC. So I was like, there's no reason I can't do it myself because I can just post it and just go ahead and talk about what I got to talk about. So then I started recording some stuff and taking video, and I ended up doing it for most of the season. This off season, I spoke to a couple of guys coaching. Like there's a guy, JT O'Sullivan, played 10 years in the NFL, played 1 year in the CFL, and he does great quarterback stuff, and he breaks down games in the NFL each week. So I said, hey, can I give you a call? And he remembered me from the CFL. I was like, yeah, give me a call. We talked. And so I've been trying to make sure I post starting training camp. I try to post twice a week just to give him, there's not a lot of CFL content out there, but it helps me really do my job. Like I'm doing color in a couple of weeks. I'll do my first color commentary and I'm going to do Calgary. So like yesterday, I watched the Calgary offense. And today I'll do Calgary defense. But I take notes or video notes. I have 15 plays, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to draw on those and explain them to fans and post it up there. What I'm seeing from the plays. So it just helps me do my job. And it's been a cool process. And I'm also trying to, but it's hard because you guys in the technology world, I just had to get a new computer, and now I'm trying to figure out downloading the software. And
we're old, Lap.
And I'm doing the editing. Like I'm now at Adobe Premiere. I'm trying to learn. I've been using this other thing, and that's what's a nightmare about it. But if you're curious, you should be good. Like I always say that curious people tend to be successful.
Well, Lapo, you're doing an amazing job. You are doing an amazing job with TSN, and I saw you last week or 2 weeks ago at the game, at the Ticat game, but are you still open to coming back, or are you setting new life? Would you come back as a coach at all, or is it at a point where you're having fun now and you're loving the game and talking about it, which I think is awesome, but they need guys like you in this league, and you're a great coach. So I think, is it still open to you?
There's a couple of things to that. First of all, the situation has to be right, because I think, I think some of the situations I've gone to probably weren't the best decision for me, right? Like I love living here in Ottawa. I was great. I probably shouldn't have taken this head coaching job, right? With the GM in the last year of his contract, with the head coach who walked away from the job, walked away from working with it, and then the quarterbacks got hurt both years. You're just not going to overcome that. And, I don't care who you are. So, but the hard part now is I've never lived away from family. So I had job opportunities this off season, but I just don't know if I want to jump on a table to go leave in April and then come back in November. And I've got a daughter who's going to be a senior in high school. I got an 8th grade son and a 6th grade daughter. So, and my wife has already said, and you guys know Tina's from Winnipeg, like, oh yeah, if Winnipeg job opened up, she's like, I'm not going back. She's like, yeah, you can go back. I'm not going back to Winnipeg. Like, we still own our house in Winnipeg, but she's like, yeah, no, we're not going back there. Like, 'cause she loves it here in Ottawa. So that makes it harder as you get older. So, and and I just want to make sure that, like, it depends on the job. Like, and also the big thing is maybe in a couple of years, my kids are all out, maybe I go back to it, so, cause I do have a passion for the game, but I always just look at it this way: worry about the job you have, and then you don't. I tried to always be the best receiver coach I could when I was a receiver coach. When I became a coordinator, I was going to be the best coordinator. The head coach, be the best head coach. And now I'm in TV, just be great at TV, be great at doing the work, putting the stuff up, putting the time in, and then making sure no different than teaching you guys in a meeting. Like, all right, this is our game plan. I do the same thing on TV. I just got to do it in 35 seconds or 90 seconds compared to, a 30-minute meeting. So you're just trying to impart knowledge.
Yeah. So where over the last, since our time in, let's just say in Hamilton together in 04, 05, whatever those years were, to now, 20 years later, how has the game changed in your opinion? What are the positives? What are the negatives? And what are the decisions that could be made to maybe change something new?
Okay, so how's the game changed? I would say this, couple of things, sorry. The first thing is kicking. And I was going to do something this week on the kicking. Obviously, we know the kickers having an unbelievable year. I think one part of that is we have a bunch of veteran kickers. We have guys with a lot of experience in the league and done it a long time. But two, also some of the new rules. We're not making, we're not making the kickers you guys played with do all 3 jobs. So we're getting to a point where everyone's specialized in the kicking game. Years ago, it wasn't that way. Years ago, the D linemen, like the defensive and offensive players, used to be the kickers before we started. And then there became specialists. And then now there's become, the global population turns into a lot of the punters. And now you've got kickers who don't have to worry about doing both jobs. So you get the best abilities of everybody. And I think that's a good move by the league. It probably hurts Canadians in some of those specialist positions, but it made everybody be good at what they're supposed to be good at, right? And trying to make a punter a kicker and make a kicker a punter. That's really not the easiest thing for guys to find those guys. That's one thing. And I do think the completion percentage. So I looked at this the other week. Kahari, in 2002, when we led the league in almost every passing category with Kahari, he completed, I think his completion percentage was 64%, right? And Ricky Ray was like 64 that year. And there might have been one person at 61, and everybody else was under that number. Like Danny Mac wasn't there. And you're like, oh my God, that's horrible nowadays in our league, because the league has gone to less downfield throws. It's more what I call BTLs, behind the line of scrimmage throws. The ball's out quick. One, because quarterbacks don't want to take hits. Two, nobody takes the middle and cover 0 anymore. And a couple other things that are, I would say, big differences is, so much more coverage. Like Mike, oh my God, when you watch film now and Hitch, there's so many different ways of playing. When you guys grew up, there was 3 double cut, there was match, there was 2 lock strong, there was man, right? But there's 4 different types of cover 4. So you can go 4 with cover. The free safety kicks weak, and he's the high quarter player. There's what's called 4 trap now, where the corners, they drop down and they're the curl flat players, and then the other 2 guys rotate up in the deep quarters. So it looks like cut for you guys, but it's really quarter. There's so many different variations of coverage because the defensive coaches are good, and also the DIs. There's so many more DIs, so you can play more players. So that's I think, another thing.
Remember Rain? Remember Rain and Umbrella?
Rain and Umbrella?
Cover 4 Rain.
Yeah.
I love
Oh my
cover
God.
four, man. Give me cover four any day. That's like stealing. There's so many little
Yeah.
holes and gaps and all
And then
that.
there's match.
I
People
think
play match
Lapo,
still. There's still
yeah,
match going on, but now it's like match on one side, two man on the other, or match on one side, zero on the other.
yeah. See, we never played with Sudsy. We had just traditional safety with me in the middle. We never played a two-man game. I think later on in '07, I think or '06 or whenever Cavis was there. And I'm glad he's not in the league anymore. Anyways, just kidding. Anyways, he started bringing in the two-man. So anyways, so I think Lapo, what Mike and I talked about too is how's the game changed, like the science of the game has changed. We've talked about the players in the past and what we did, in the early late '90s to even the early 2000s,
Drink beer and have fun.
but I get it. I don't see a lot of that. Maybe it's just because we're not in the room anymore, but I don't see a lot of that real closeness knit group guys that have been together for 5, 6, 7, 8 years that have all been together and we always do stuff together. Now it's like we always talk about, guys are drinking shakes after the game and riding the bike and we go right to the bar or we go somewhere. And I know it's different now, but it just doesn't seem the same. Like I don't know.
Yeah,
Not
let me
right.
talk about that. Like, because I wrote some notes down about that '04 season and what's interesting, the changes of those years. So yeah, I think like you guys were right at the end of that, right, of that world, and now that it has changed, I don't get overly worried about on a night before a game that half the team is in Montreal that are out at the bars. You just don't. No, maybe I'm ignorant, but it just isn't. I think guys are more protective. One, their jobs. One, like, hey, I got a family, and they know the competition is pretty good, and it's going to be hard if you make too many mistakes, right?
And they're visible, right?
That's true. That's a huge
somewhat
thing.
invisible.
Yeah. Like I heard a story about Johnny Manziel when he was in Montreal that he found a bar that everybody handed in their cell phones. So like he found that place and that's where he went because he knew nobody would be taking pictures of him. So
Yeah, we didn't have phones.
so I would say this: what is interesting, if I think about the 2004 team, and for those that don't know, they were 1-17 the year before. Greg Marshall came in, mostly a new staff and a couple of holdovers, but we went 9-8-1. And I looked at it. I looked at it this morning. We were 3-0 right out the gate, and everyone's like, "Oh my God!" Then we went 3-5, so we lost 5 in a row. So we're 5-7 at a bye. Then we finished our last season. We finished 4-1 down the stretch to go 9-8-1, and we lost to Toronto in the playoffs. Before I forget, like in that Toronto playoff game, like I want to go back to McManus because you said what's the best of the guys is like we called something. I think I called shallow. You did an adjustment. I think your adjustment was wrong. Danny Mac threw it. It was a pick. It was a pick six.
It was.
After the
must have been Danny.
After the game, this is why Danny Mac is a leader and people love Danny Mac and will follow Danny Mac. Mike's at fault. Danny Mac takes the blame. You're right. He took all the blame. And
Always did.
like that's what a good leader is, right? That's what a leader does. But that team, we jumped out. We win in BC and in Calgary and beat Winnipeg. Like, it was kind of crazy that win in BC. And I was like, I don't know, what's the big deal? I beat BC and Winnipeg, but you guys hadn't beat them in years. Yeah, 10 years. Sandy Beveridge had a fumble recovery or an interception. And, like, Breedlove had a touchdown. Flick had a touchdown. Yeast had a touchdown. And then we beat Calgary in Calgary, which hadn't been done in years. So like everyone was like had buy-in, but here's what was great about that football team. So this is the first team I've ever been on that you guys chose to practice in the afternoon. That's only happened once in my entire career. You guys said it's because I want guys to come in. I don't want guys to roll in hungover at 8 o'clock. They'll show up at 9 o'clock. I'd rather them get here at 10:30. And I thought that was pretty impressive. And that was the only time I've ever done a 1:30 to 6 o'clock. Yeah, my entire career. Really? And it was true. Like there was guys early walking around at 10 o'clock. Mike, for fans, he would have a robe. He had a robe that he walked around in. He'd go into meetings in a robe, and you guys would go hang out there. So that was an impressive thing. And like I can remember we'd win a game. We'd be watching film after. The O-line did not watch film as long as we did. And we were, I tried to be detailed and go over everything, and we'd be sitting in that room. And if you remember, the video room we didn't have an office. It was just my meeting. It was my office. And we had to string 2 TVs together, like, because the room wasn't big enough. It was horrible. I brought like one of my own TVs in, and like we moved it so to watch film. But I can remember after a game, Carl Coulter would kind of knock on the, hey, Lapo, yep, and we're all meeting right after the game, and like the next day, and like, yeah, Cooler, what's up? How much longer do you have? Because like, the linemen are ready for the keg. We're outside already, and we got the ice, and
blender was going for the margarita.
Cooler, we'll be done about 15, okay? He's like, okay, thanks, coach, right? But that was awesome. You would see then the entire team went out together, and they would hang, and they would celebrate the win. And there's a lot to be said for that. I brought this up a couple of weeks back. I forget where I was, but I can remember being a young coach and Danny McManus going to Greg Marshall. If you remember, Greg made us all stay in training camp in the same dorm. Like even coaches, like my wife has just moved here, and I'm like, all right, I got to still be in the dorm, right? But we all, like the married guys he didn't care. Everybody was in there in dorms. But I remember Danny Mac went to Greg and said, can we open after meetings for 1 hour a room with a keg? And Greg said yes. And I remember at that time being this young coach going, what are you crazy? But the guys aren't getting drunk. It's only an hour. So they just want to hang out with each other. And Danny Mac said, we'll make sure it's closed. I'll close it up. It'll make sure by 11 o'clock everybody's out. But that's kind of the team building I thought that unit had. And certainly some of the veteran guys brought to that team. Adriano Belli was a good addition. And we did bring a bunch of guys. Like we brought like a bunch of those Ottawa guys. I remember we brought like DJ Flick. There's a bunch of guys who came over, and I thought you guys did a good job building a group that cared about each other. And you seem to, after a win, to all go out together, right? And on the road. And back in those days, here's another reason why you don't have that experience, because everybody charters now. So you don't have a night in Calgary celebrating, and then some girls leaving the hotel, and as the bus is there, and you guys are all yelling at her, hey, right? Crazy days.
Just torture. We were just torturing people. Honestly.
Yeah. The guys walking in, getting dropped off in the car, and we're all loading on the bus. The guys are just running in to get their stuff.
Oh, there's a gazillion of them. But it just, to me, I still, everything that I miss is the boys.
Yep.
Like everything I miss is, I mean, of course you miss the competition and you miss this. And to this day, Rob, you probably feel the same way, different position, but I only remember the plays I screwed up on. Like I only remember the drops. I only remember those ones I remember vividly, and I don't have a great recollection of the great things that happen, the fun things. Well, certainly the fun, but I don't remember the minutia of the game. I just remember the experience. And I don't know, as a coach, it's different because I know you can probably articulate almost every play in every game. You've done it already on this call. But players, at least for me, it's so different for me. I don't know how it's for you, Rob, but I don't remember those singular moments. I don't know if I got the shit kicked out of me all the time, but it's not what I recall.
As a coach, I would say this, we have the same thing. It's just with the other coach. Well, we get it double. We get it with you guys, all the great memories and meetings and everything. But then we have another 4 hours together when you guys go home with the coaches. So I have great memories of all the coaches and the people we're working with, like Dennis McPhee, like all the, so many of those relationships. That's what I miss from being in television. Like, because we're all in different cities, we fly in to do a game and then leave. But the relationships long hours with Buck Pierce and Mike O'Shea and Jamie Barisi, all those people. And it's funny, like I was helping with Hamilton McMaster this year as a consultant, so I got to hang out with Jamie for 4 days, and so those relationships are there. It's just like the Grey Cup, you don't remember the game, you remember all the work going up to the Grey Cup and the funny stories going into all those things. So yeah, that's what's great for me. Hitch, what do you got?
Well, I don't remember being a defensive guy. You just remember some of the big plays, right? Like I remember hitting Milt Siegel like 4 or 5
You
times,
hit him,
and I hit
you
him,
crushed him, and he was like knocked out on the field, right? Like,
I hit him right up the seam. And I remember that. And he got up, and he was like, and I talk to him about this all the time when I see him. And then like Kahari Jones, I think I had my most picks against Kahari. I think I had 6 against him in my career, like because he threw the ball a freaking million times a game, right? But yeah, some of the big hits I just remember. But again, like you said, like you don't remember I remember the locker room stuff like it was yesterday. But half the games I'm just like picking and choosing a couple of plays you made here and there. But this is the guys, the camaraderie, the guys, and we'll always cherish that as players, and that'll never leave us as players and coaches, because we've created these friendships with guys. Like we just had a reunion about a month ago, I think it was, Mike, about a month ago, and a lot of local guys, and they brought in I think 23 guys. Like Phil Brick came in from the Caymans, haven't seen him in 2 years, like. But you talk to him like Calvin Tiggle when he came back a month last year. Like I haven't seen the guy forever, and it was like
just pick up where you leave off.
Just pick off. You don't miss a beat with them, and that's the beauty of this game, and that's what we
I
cherish.
Was at a. I always love this statement because I remember being, and this is years ago, but I remember it so much, and it goes to the relationships with friends. I was at like probably my 10-year reunion from high school. And I remember, you're, hey, how you doing? Hi, and then like I walked kind of in the back behind a couple of tables. And then this guy I used to hang out with all the time. His name was Nils, good friend. He came over and he kind of stood right here. And we didn't say a word. Hey, we were just drinking, but having beers. And then he said it. He's like, what's great? Being around friends so we don't have to talk to each other. Like we can just be ourselves and not different, and I think in this high profile, whether it be TV or titled coordinator, receiver coach, head coach, all that stuff, too many of our people, some people change, right, when they move up the ranks and everything. And some of the greatest compliments I remember Doug Brown says, you're the same as you are as a coordinator as you are as a head coach. You treat people the same, you act the same, and that's the smart thing to do. That's the way to do your business. Be the same person, no matter what role you're in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Me too.
Chris Rankin. I've got a Chris Rankin story.
Oh.
So for the Ticats fans, Chris Rankin, like we used to call the Hamilton Tiger Cats practice squad McMaster University because Greg had every player from Mac. And we had a kid named Chris Rankin who was like, I think he worked at a bar as a bouncer and he was a wide receiver. And like, oh my God, and we signed him on the PR to help us with legs and everything. And he was nuts. Like one thing, if you remember, we did at the end of the season, I think on the last practice I had for our quarterback, and I kept doing it for years after, the receivers got to bring in, like we didn't do football because I think our last game, nothing mattered, but we watched our own highlight tapes. If anybody had a highlight tape, we brought it in. Right?
Oh, yeah. Even yours. We saw yours too.
We had Chris Rankin. Chris Rankin had by far the best highlight tape. And he was on the roster. He never went on the roster, but we played Ottawa the last game and it meant nothing. Yeah, we took a train out there, and he was on the roster, and all the receivers made a plan to fake injuries, like 2 injuries for him to go in. So they did it, and then I'm like, all of a sudden he's on for like 2 plays. I'm like, what is going on? Like, get him off the field.
The best part was, Lapo, it wasn't us faking injury. We were literally out the night before shit-faced. Yeah. And then that day, the day it rained, I don't know if you remember, it rained, and it was cold, and we weren't supposed to play, but then Rob and I both had to play, and we were over because we were out the night before. Fuck, it was so bad, but that's a true story.
Rankin got in the game, and it was like after 3 plays, I'm like, Rankin's in, but shit like that. Like, if you remember, and I kept it. I started in Toronto, and I did it all the way as a head coach. Was the Halloween practice? Remember, I used to be like, all right, I want you to celebrate your previous team. If you have any of your own gear, wear your own gear for warm ups and stretch. So, like, the guys love that kind of. Hey, look at my gear. Yeah, you wore your own helmet. I remember and stuff. That's the fun memory and stuff. But yeah, Chris Rankin, all those guys were,
Chris Rankin was. I tell you what, he was like another version of Ben Cahoon. He left his feet for every catch. He'd get the shit kicked out of him. He'd be flipping and jumping and diving, and everybody loved him. Like, everybody loved Rankin because he went 110% every time.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was, and then you're right, though, Greg. Greg stacked that, the back end of our roster was all MAC people. Say, hey, whoever could come in and play and help us.
Didn't you, wasn't it down the hallway? Wasn't it the hallway where we're making some ruckus in the hotel room? And Greg comes out and says, you guys get in your room. And you're like, you go in your room. You go in your room. He's like,
you guys go to bed. I said, I'm like 35 years old. You go to bed.
First of all, the operations person that put the head coach on the same floor as players should be fired. Yeah. Absolutely. Oh. And Greg, I saw Greg this spring, and we always have fond memories talking about that because, like, he was coach of the year in the CFL, right? 9-8-1 after how bad it was the previous year. And, I thought, like, he let the coaches coach. He didn't get involved in too much. But the thing he always talks about is, like, they just kept, they obviously had some issues. Like, Coach Lancaster was our GM. That kind of wasn't his right role. And, they needed better people around. It's always like you need the right combination of people around a head coach. And, he always says, like, I was just getting good at it and they fired me. And, there's so much to learn. And you hired me from college. So you would hope there's a period of learning, but I've got the leadership skills. I've got the other things. But he said I was just starting to get good at it, and then they fired me. Like, and that's what happens in our business sometimes. They don't give you a chance to fix it.
I think Greg did a great job, and I think it was like 4th game in or 5th game in, and he brought a bunch of us into the room, 5 or 6 of us into his room, and just said, you guys are going to control the locker room. What's going on in there? Like, he was finally coming in, and we said to him one thing. I remember he was in camp. Like, he treated some guys like they were university guys. And we just said, you can't do what he knew. You can't do that in this league because guys won't respect it. Like, they're getting paid now. So I think those conversations we had, and then he just turned it. And again, coach of the year that year. I love Greg. I think he's.
Me too. I really enjoyed.
He's great.
I thought Greg was the right coach. I agree. The organization at that time didn't help him enough.
Yeah,
putting the right people in the right places. Because I really believe he treated us like men. Like, he was good. He was fair. He cared about us. We were getting fed every day at that time. Now everybody gets fed. There's bars, smoothies. At that time, we had food brought in every day. We had a
Sunshine Bakery.
Table, training table in the morning. We had all these things. And I just felt, to your point, and Lapo, you've probably been through it. Like, you just start getting going, and then all of a sudden, unforeseen circumstances, and you're gone. And he never came back. And probably, in some respects, I don't want to speak for him, Mississippi, but the other respect, he's done very well outside. But I did really think they did him a disservice, get rid of him that quickly, in my opinion.
Well, like, do you remember, like, our training camp was crazy though. Like, we had pads on all the time. We were testing. So, like, there's all that stuff. I remember that first training camp, like, Coach Lancaster's like, have you ever hit this much? And I'm like, you don't want to, like, you just keep your mouth shut, and because he's the boss. That's how he wants to do it. But I think he grew with some of those. But, at the end of at the end of the second year, our general manager, do you guys remember who our general manager was?
didn't Pow Pow come in and start doing stuff too? Was that in that?
That was the third year. That was the third year. The second year, this will blow your mind. Our general manager was a guy named Rob Katz.
It was Rob Katz. I was going to say we had Rob Katz. We had a couple other guys that just hung around that were
some guy named Greg. Something.
Yeah,
but Rob Katz had done like a marketing deal, and he was a sales guy. And they said, "Well, he did a good job. Maybe you can do contracts." And like he walked in the first week and he said, I'll never forget this. I'm not going to tell you guys what to do, this or that. And that was like a week. And a week later, we signed. He's a good coach now in the U.S. Taylor Stubblefield. He played at Purdue, had a great career. And like I remember his first day, like he had to run a 40, and he's on the phone with his agent and all this stuff. And I'm like, buddy, like he's talking to me, and I'm like, buddy, I'm not telling you what to do. You don't have to run a 40. But you're coming to a new organization and people ask you to run a 40. I'd run a 40. Like they're not going to cut you if you run a 4.7, right? Like just run a 40. So then a week later, they want him to start. And I'm like, he's not ready to start. I don't know if he's better than what we have. And he's like, and Rob Katz now a week later is telling me, well, he was the last cut of the, for the Indianapolis Colts. And he was the all-time receiver. And I'm like, see the guy starting for us? Here's a name. Dondre Gilliam. That guy started 2 years for the Chargers, and he's not good enough, right? And, so don't tell me those things. And it's like, oh, Craig East is not good. And then the next week, Craig's the player of the week, has a great game. So, there's many layers that go into an organization. They got to give the organization time. And so that was kind of a disservice to Greg. And then after we struggled the second year, like they made us fire everybody and they brought Pow Pow in. And, Greg didn't want to fire me. I was in the room with Greg on the phone. And he's like, I'm not firing Paul. I'm like, oh, we need his money to hire Joe. And I'm like, and Greg's like, well, he's a good coach. Like, why are we? And then I fortunately went to Toronto and, pinball brought me back with Kent Austin. And it was a great move for me because 8 games later, Greg gets fired, so.
Crazy, man.
Well, we love you. We love you, Pat, or Paul. We love you, Lapo. But listen, we've been going 57 minutes, buddy. We got to get out of
here. Good stuff, boys. Okay.
Lapo, tell everybody your YouTube channel so we can make sure people pay attention.
I'm getting close to 1,000, which is a big number in the YouTube world. I'm like 820, so it's Coach Lapo at YouTube, and I try to post stuff each week and put stuff out for CFL fans to watch. Some of it's 3 minutes, some of it's 20 minutes. So
we'll get on that. We'll get on it. We'll get on it.
Oh, yeah, sure, Hitch. Right?
Yeah, sure we will. Yeah, 100%. And you have your first, did I hear you right, your first ever color commentary coming up?
Yeah. Not ever. So last year I did 3. So this year, I'm in studio usually 2 days a week. I'll be on the sideline for the Ticats this weekend. I kind of do coach some sideline reporting, filling in for She and Eddie. And then I think I have at least 4 colors this year, which is great because the difference, studio, you talk for 90 seconds. When you're on color, you have 3 hours to impart knowledge. And that's a lot of fun. I had fun doing it last year at Marshall. So I got 3 of them this year, at least 3 to 4 this year.
Come on, me. You didn't know he did 3 games last year?
What do you want me to do? Follow Paul LaPolice around? What the hell's going on?
He's got a basketball organization to run. Good Lord.
Yeah, shit to do. Speaking of that, I'll be out in Ottawa very soon, Lapo. So maybe we should connect. But that's for another.
Text me when you're coming out, buddy.
We'll get together. Awesome. Listen, from everybody here, from Rob and myself and Bucko, we haven't even had to talk to Bucko today. It's been a very, very good day. There he is.
Right there he is. I might be going to a podcast. If I do a podcast format, I'll have you guys on. How about that?
Please.
Love it, man.
7 followers.
Love you, Lapo.
All right, from everybody here at the Morreale and Hitch podcast, it's been great having you on, Lapo. This is the Ticats Audio Network. We'll talk to you guys soon.
That's another episode of Morreale and Hitch on the Ticats Audio Network. Have a question or a comment for them? Email us at manh@ticats.ca. That's MANDH@ticats.ca.